Sapiens. Today I'm here with my very good friend Taarika John. Taarika is an artist, illustrator, student, and all-around freelancing sensei. Taarika, welcome to the program.
Hey man, thank you for having me.
It's very good to see you.
Yeah, I know. I feel like it's been a minute, right?
It's been a minute. I've been like kind of intentionally postponing any type of like call or video call with you because I'm just like, we just have to do a podcast. And I've just been like, oh, you know what I mean? Like any opportunity.
All the interesting conversation for one.
Yeah. But chatting with you is always so much fun, and I've missed having you nearby, even though in the pandemic we'd be separated anyway. You're in New York right now.
Yes, I am.
Yeah. What part of New York are you in, and why are you there?
I live in Brooklyn, specifically in Bushwick, mostly because I found a decent place within my budget. I found a pretty nice place within my budget, I think. So
yeah,
it worked out. It's not super far from school. It doesn't really matter anymore since we don't really have to go to school that often. And I don't know, most of my classmates and like friends in general live in and around Brooklyn, so it just makes sense.
Cool. And what is the nature of the program that you're taking over there in Brooklyn?
Well, school's in the city.
Yeah.
But so I'm getting my MFA in illustration at the School of Visual Arts.
Mm-hmm.
The program is specifically called Illustration as Visual Essay, mostly because I think the programs cater to image makers who have an interest in like narrative storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I mean, if you want to write, which I like to do, like we do have a writing class, and it's open-ended in the kind of narratives that you want to create. And I think my interest in illustration has always been specifically through the lens of like storytelling. So this is why I picked this program in specific.
Your illustrations,
and it was fun.
Your illustrations, like definitely you focus a lot on people and faces. And is that called portraiture, or is that like the wrong word, or is it too specific?
I guess you can call it portraiture to some extent.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I'm not like great with the like technical stuff, even though I'm on this side of the industry.
Yeah.
But I feel like portraiture is also specifically when you're doing like the face.
A profile type.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Bust area kind of thing.
Yeah. So we met some years back, and you shifted to New York. How long has it been? About a year? Over a year?
Yeah, it's about a year and a month, I guess. I was here last August.
Yeah. So before that, you were here in Bombay, and we would hang out pretty frequently. I would go over to your place, and we would sit and basically compare our notes as freelancers. And it's a special relationship because, like, we are in very different fields of, what one might call the creative discipline, and also as freelancers. And we also, even outside of that, you and I got to doing what we do in pretty different kind of ways.
Yeah.
And so it was always a lot of fun to just come over and get your perspective on things. I've always had a lot of respect for your opinion and the things the insight that you shed on how to make it as a freelancer, like how to kind of cope with the chaotic nature of.
Yeah. I was actually thinking this morning when I was getting ready to like get on this call with you. It's like, okay, like when did we meet? And I was like, okay, it's been like what, 2016, I think, right?
Yeah, 2016, right at the
beginning, maybe.
Right at the beginning of 2016 or right at the end of 2015. One of those.
Yeah. I think end of 2015. And I think the very first conversation we had was exactly that, like talking about freelance life, and the chaos of it all.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, okay, this is, and I mean, I knew right away, like, I remember we had that conversation, and I was like, finally, like, it was the second time that I had moved back to Bombay, and I was like, finally, a new friend who talks about the shame shit that I want to talk about. Yeah. I was like, okay, this is, like, it's like we are going to be friends now.
But the thing with you is, like, whenever we talk about these subjects, you're, I think, probably, like, 10 years younger than I am, but when we're listening to you really talk about a particular subject or anecdote that's happened in your life as a freelance illustrator, it often feels like I'm listening to somebody preaching something. Like you have this oratory style that overtakes you when you're in the, impassioned moment detailing some of the weird, weird shit that happens to you as a freelancer. And also, like, between the two of us, you are extremely organized. Like, you are so much more professional in your activities and how you conduct yourself. And I have learned a lot from just sitting with you and listening to, your kind of take on all those things.
Preaching.
Yeah. No, it's good. It's good. Well, also, it's kind of like, whenever we would come to your house, you have this chair, but like all the other seating is like closer to the lower on the floor. So it's a really common thing in our relationship generally, where I'll be sitting on the ground and you'll be on a chair, just
looking up at me,
just summoning an incantation of sorts. You you lived in Bombay for a number of years before you moved to New York, which is just over a year ago. How long were you in Bombay for?
Yeah. Well, I first actually moved to Bombay, I think 2014 sometime. Like right early, like right out of college. As soon as I graduated, I think like 3 months after graduation, I moved to Bombay.
Yeah.
But that is what I would call, like, it was a very like brief time. I was there maybe like 6 months, I think. I worked at an advertising agency, and then I quit, and I was freelancing for a while, and then there was like absolute chaos in my like general like living situation and such. So I moved back to Cochin. And then I spent like the rest of the year just trying to figure out a way to come back to Bombay. And I think when we met was the second time I had moved back, when I had just moved, like I had just moved into that apartment.
Yeah.
And then I was there, like, I guess still like for a couple of years. And I feel like that's when I kind of like settled down in Bombay and like had a more like structured professional life and, like adult friends and those kind of things.
You were a fixture in my life here. And
likewise.
Yeah, for sure. So you went to a school called Shristi, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, where is that located?
It's in Bangalore technically, but the campuses are in Yelahanka, which are pretty much on the outskirts of the city. I think it's a lot fancier now, but like when I went there, it was pretty much like super like small town village. Yeah. One of our liquor stores was in a cowshed. Like we literally called it cowshed. We were like,
let's go get booze at cowshed.
I mean, it wasn't actually a name because it was a guy who had a cowshed on the highway, and for some reason sold booze out of a like tiny window in his bedroom. So like it was literally
we'll just be back from the cowshed. Yeah. We're gonna go to the cowshed.
We're going to the cowshed.
We're going to the cowshed.
Yeah, literally. That was you want something from cowshed.
That's excellent.
but it wasn't like an actual liquor store. Like it was just like it was that kind of like small town. You know what I mean? Like
that reminds me of.
So I mean, it was interesting, I would say.
That reminds me of when I was traveling around Orissa and I went to Chilka Lake, and in the middle of Chilka Lake there's like a really small island, and the only two things on the island is like a shack where there's some shrimp, like a guy just makes seafood that he catches from like right across like 10 feet away, and then there's just one shack where you can buy smokes. And I just
that's
love
all you need in life. Right?
Yeah, it's like the smokes. You just gotta have the smokes. Like we got food and smokes. And I was like, wow.
Shrimp and cigarettes.
Yeah. So the reason why I bring up the school you went to is I know a lot of times when we talk about your philosophy with regards to what you try to accomplish in your art was heavily influenced, I guess, by some of the moments and experiences you had at that school, but also in terms of a guy that doesn't know what the relative level of fanciness is of these schools, the only thing that I can use to gauge that it must be a fancy place is because whoever runs the Vice India is Hip Instagram account made a meme about it, and so I figure which I sent to you.
Yeah, I felt so seen. Yeah,
exactly. So it's like, okay, so it's made it to this point where you can joke in a meta way about it, so it must mean something. But can you talk a little bit about the Well, the types of things that motivates your artwork, like that you maybe picked up when you were at school.
Well, I guess when I went to Srishti, I started out like having no idea really, like, or not at all in the same direction that I'm working in now. I thought I wanted to be a graphic designer when I started. And also Srishti like had the system when you do your undergrad where for the first 2 years they call it like foundation studies, and it's pretty like liberal artsy because you can basically take like classes from any kind of like subject. So you could do like basically you could try anything that you wanted to, right? And then the idea is that maybe by the end of second year you kind of have an idea of one thing that you want to focus on more. But like you didn't really have to pick a major. Like a lot of people got their majors because they did more classes in that subject overall. But you could also just get a diploma in like art and design, and not like be like I study everything. So I think it was a little like I don't know, I don't think it was exact, like I don't know how what other like BFA programs are like, but also it was not a BFA program when I went there because one of the things, like it's changed now and they do offer a degree, but when I went there they weren't whatever accredited to any university, so you could only get a diploma.
Okay.
After like 4.5 years of study, which, you know, in like Indian society is like sounds psychotic. Like everyone in my family was like, I mean, my parents were chill, but like people just thought we were like insane because they were like, you're going to do something for 4.5 years, which is like art that doesn't really make sense, and then you're not even going to get a degree. Like they were like, what are you doing with your life? Like why would you spend 4 years and not get a like piece of paper that says that you have a degree?
We know that one well. We hear variations of that throughout the diaspora, I believe.
Yeah, I mean the degree is the most important thing, right? Like you have to have the on-paper qualification. But I mean, so when I went into Srishti, it was already this kind of like strange space in that sense. But it was also kind of like, I was like, okay, let me see what this is about. And I think I found myself very naturally like just drawing no matter what kind of course I was doing. Like whether it was like I was doing courses like politics, paper, and people. Okay, like where we talked about politics and people, and we had to make things out of paper. I don't even know what I was doing those 4 years. But so it was kind of cool. You got to try like random shit that you wouldn't normally try, I think. I feel like Srishti, more than anything, it helped, like my time there helped me to like think better, if that makes sense. Like I finally kind of like moved out of a small town. I met like way more people who had things like had shared interests with me. I mean, like just the conversations that you have with other like creative people, right? Like doing things together, like coming up with I think because we had the whole diploma thing, the whole idea was to have learning be open-ended and like change things as like things change in the world. So they gave us a lot of freedom that way to just like do random shit, you know, like if you want to like have an exhibition, you can. Like I remember one of my friends from Cochin, actually, he was in Srishti and he like set up a legit gallery space in his like PG home. You know, like they had like proper shows, they curated it. It was insane. Like
that's great.
And like Srishti would let you do stuff like that, you know, like
those are important skills. Like, you know, even the going through the process of putting on an exhibition, that's like a kind of something you could easily overlook if you think about it, right?
Yeah.
Like, what are the skills you need to learn to be a good artist? Like, oh, you have to like focus on form and design, or you can go on color theory, whatever. But it's like, oh yeah, like the actual logistics of putting off a show of your work, like just that prompt is such a good thing to offer people. Yeah,
and I think that is my like favorite thing about Srishti, and I feel like out of 4 years, like the thing, like I can see certain like life or work skills that I have now that I know were a direct thing of like spending those 4 years in that kind of like community. Like things like being able to like just talk about your work, you know, like if someone's like asking about your work, like just being able to like be articulate about how you communicate what your idea is or like why you've done something. You know, like they emphasize things like that, like or like keeping a sketchbook, like actually keeping a sketchbook, like making notes, like using something with you all the time that you document your thought process in.
Yeah.
And like in the beginning, it was kind of like a mandatory thing that you just had to do as a class requirement. But if you keep doing it, then you start like you start building a practice basically.
Yeah.
So I miss
the days I used to carry around a notepad.
I still do.
Like I just used to have one on. Yeah. I've fallen off the habit.
I think,
and there's something pretty different about like the pen to paper versus tapping something into your smartphone. That is, I mean, I don't know what a good word to describe it is, but it helps so much to have that for just sorting out ideas and even sort of moving them around in your head so you can get them done instead of just your head being a jumble of ideas.
I feel like something about the pen to paper that I also feel is that I feel like there's something about the like physical nature of it that like something about like using your hand to like scribble an idea when it's like chaotic in your head. Like it also feels like a release, you know, like I feel like I don't get the same satisfaction like typing it into my phone. Like, it's like, okay, like I got it out of my head and like it's clear now.
Well, what that makes me think, what is your perception of the difference between drawing something physically in physical space, whether you're drawing it or painting it or whatever it is you're doing, versus using something like the tablet thing that you would use, to interface with Photoshop? Like, is there like a preference? Is it like sometimes I prefer one to the other bit depending on what I'm doing, or like what's the?
I think for me, like I find like joy in both to some extent. Like there's definitely like everything's about getting used to it. Like when you first start drawing with a tablet or you first start drawing on the iPad, it takes you a little while to like get used to the like surface or the pressure and things like that. But I mean, I work digitally a lot, like especially when I'm doing like commissions and stuff, just because there's certain things that you can speed up, right? Like I mean, it eliminates the step of like scanning something and then like finishing the lines and like I mean I can ink directly if I need to. So if I'm working on a time basis and things like that, it's just convenient. I would say even, I mean, I like to draw like in and around when I'm moving around. I keep a notebook with me, but sometimes it's nice to have the iPad because like I don't need to have like 20 different like color pencils and whatnot like with me. Like, it's one tool that does everything. But I mean, I guess it's also like what you're in the mood for, because like there's some things that you just like, it just feels better. Like there's no other way to like say it, but it's, some things just feel better when you're like scratching on the paper. And like, I mean, I guess it's really what you're in the mood for, because I would say on one hand, I feel like working digitally sometimes helps me to be fearless, because it's like, oh, well, I don't have to worry about making a mistake. Or like if I want to try 20 different iterations of something, it's much easier for me to like do that and take the risk, because I just like duplicate the layer and I can like try all the different colors or like styles that I want. And I mean, when you're working with hand, you have to think about that a little bit. But at the same time, there's also like a joy in the like mistakes of like human error, right? Like I would say some of my better drawings like have like glaring mistakes or like things that I've like roughly patched up with pen, but it doesn't really matter. So I guess there's a time and place for everything. Like I think we should have it all. I don't think you have to pick.
Yeah, I don't think you should have to pick. It's interesting. I mean, I used to feel that way about recording too, where like you have the option of doing everything like computerized and really precise and making everything sound really pristine, or you can like leave in certain human imperfections in the recording, and like depending on the type of music it is or the vibe you're trying to create, you either leave it in or you don't. You go for the more polished option. Like you definitely wouldn't want to close off. It's good to have both of those mediums. And I guess it's sort of it's sort of an obvious sort of thing. Just as a musician, it's really cool to be able to make music on my computer and stuff, but I miss having the tactile thing, like not having a lot of instruments with me. So I guess it must be like a similar kind of a thing.
I guess there's something about touch, right? With like tangible things that also fulfills a part of your brain when you're making something. Yeah,
I think that's important. It's also good to not look at a screen for a while.
Yeah,
like,
it is.
That bothers me. Like the amount of time I spend looking at a screen, and it just makes me wonder, like, wow, like so many activities are offloaded onto a screen. You know, it's I had a friend who, I had a friend whose girlfriend had LASIK surgery, and in order to recover from that, you have to like not look at a screen or not do anything screen intensive for like a couple of days or something like that. And I remember him remarking just how few things there are to do that don't involve looking at a screen. And I was just like, that's actually something to think about. It was worth it's worth taking a pause for a minute and be like, if I wanted to not look at a screen for the next 24 hours, what are some things I could do to keep myself occupied?
I mean, I feel like I could occupy myself, but it feels impossible to escape, right? Like, especially during the pandemic, like I am both like grateful and aggravated by how connected we are all the time when we are in like isolation.
I was just thinking about that.
On one hand, it's like especially in the early days when we were like under like super locked down and couldn't leave the house and all that shit. Like, I mean, it was great to like see a human or like hear a voice. But like as the months went on, because I mean, it's been like months that we've been at home now. You know, like it's been most of the year, and sometimes it's just like I'm just like I feel like my phone buzzes more than ever. Like and everybody uses it. Like I'm grateful that people love me and want to like reach out to me, but it's also like I can't take all of the stimulation. You know, like everybody wants to have a conversation. And like one time, like I think one night I was hanging out with a friend and my phone kept buzzing, and I was like, you know what, I'm just not going to look at my phone, right? Like I'm spending time with you. I'm not going to like be distracted by anything else. And then the next time I looked at my phone, it was in the morning, like maybe like 12 hours later. And I had 123 notifications.
That's nuts.
I mean, that's ridiculous, right? Like
that, I mean,
I don't know 123 people.
Yeah, it's like, not hard to believe because you're a very likable person. So I can imagine a lot of people wanting to chat with you. I haven't been that inundated. I've been keeping it good. I like the fact that this video call thing is becoming normalized because I feel like the technology had existed for quite some time before we caught on to just the fact that we have this option. Like, even if you're on the other side of the planet, like we can just like video call. Like I think in popular culture, the idea of the video call was set back dramatically by the fictitious sci-fi invention of the video phone that happened in the 90s, where if you like saw certain sci-fi or future themed movies in the 90s, they'd be like, oh yeah, and there'll be video phones and you can see the person that you're talking to. And like, that idea just seems so preposterous. You know, it's like, who's going to buy these phones? Like, the other person has to have a video phone and I have to have a video phone, and this is not going to, so
it's not feasible.
Yeah. So the whole idea seemed like just foolish. And then it had dipped. I think people were just in public perception, the notion that you can do video calls easily sort of dipped in the public. I don't know. I'm just rambling, but
I mean, it's true though. Like, it's also, I don't know. Like a couple of years ago, I feel like I mean, I don't know if it's just that we're like old now. I mean, it's not a couple of years; it's many years ago. But I feel like it wasn't that long ago.
You say a couple of years, and like, oh, like 7.
Yeah, because it's not actually like 2 or 3. But like, I feel like at least in our lifetime, things changed really fast, right? Like, I remember when like Skyping with someone, like even when I was like
Skyping
in college,
was a hassle.
like Skyping.
It was like, how do I?
It was a hassle,
like how do I do this?
It was like, oh, like
do
Skype
I add
call,
you?
like,
I already did add you. Why can't I see you in my contacts? No, you have to add me. I remember Skype was a scene. And now, like, every chat app has a video feature.
A video option, yeah.
Even the dating apps.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just super ubiquitous.
And now it's just like, I feel like I guess maybe I'm still like old fashioned at some level, but I don't want you to like just video call me. Like, give me, like, because your phone is in your hand all the time. You know,
gotta
like,
give a heads up.
Give me a fucking heads up, but it's.
You gotta give a heads up.
It's about, like, I don't know, people do it with their friends. They just like spontaneously video call each other. I feel like it's too much like lack of like privacy, right? At some level, even with people that you care about. Like,
it feels awkward to reject it because it's got that big red button that makes you. It feels like you're rejecting your friend. It's like your two options are reject your friend completely or allow them into your bedroom right now. Like, those are the options given. And
I mean, it's one thing if you're in my bedroom and we're like hanging out and I'm like lying on my ass, like watching TV looking like an asshole, but like it feels different if you're calling me and then you're seeing me that way. I don't know. I don't know why. You know, like I would do the same thing in person.
It's extreme. It feels a little extra invasive, and that's happening also in the context of even phone calls feeling invasive. Like with the sort of proliferation of text messages, I've more and more gotten into a situation where I ask people before I can call them, you know? It's like, oh, you have a moment to chat? Like, so even like a regular phone call, it's kind of like that now. And what's interesting is that the introduction of something like a ubiquitous potential to video call somebody that's always in your pocket, it sort of expands the whole notion of etiquette and what's right and what's considered, a bit too forward. Like it's a new territory, and we don't have like a good framework for like what is the sensible thing to do. Like, I feel like if Seinfeld was still a show, then it would sort it right out. Like, Seinfeld is the kind of show that'd be like, you don't just video call people. Like, they would just call, they're like, he video called you? Yeah. Didn't know text message. It's like, I think, and we need a Seinfeld-like show to help us sort of air out these things in public. There's never been more of a need for Seinfeld, I think, and we just have established that.
Than today.
Just now.
I wonder if Jerry and Larry are listening, but I don't think they give a shit.
They don't give a shit. So. It's up to us. We're the new Seinfeld. So. Since you moved to, you had a few solid months pre-pandemic, I guess, and
I had a good 6 to 8, I guess.
Before we even get into maybe the shock of finding yourself, I guess we're all shocked to find ourselves in the midst of a global pandemic, but what was it like just kind of moving to the U.S. after, New York specifically, after being based in Bombay for so long, and you had a solid run of just working hard as a freelancer before enrolling in this program. So it's also a lifestyle switch up, at the level, So what's that been like? What's the transition been like? What's the difference?
Well, I guess when I first got here, one of the things that I found not too hard to like adjust to is that just like big city life, I feel like New York's just like white Bombay. Mm-hmm. This is actually something that one of my friends in Bombay, who moved to New York, told me. She was like, dude, it's just like Bombay, but with like white people. I was like, okay. I got here and I was like, okay,
he was right.
Yeah, I feel like he was right. Yeah, he was totally right. It is like you see the big rats, and I feel like, yes, like home. It
reminds you of the rats back in Bombay. Okay, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, like every time I leave the city and then I come back and I'm like commuting back into the city, like, and I enter whatever subway station I'm at, and then like the last time I was on a trip and I came back, I was telling my friends, I was like, like the sweet smell of like stale piss,
yeah. Well, yeah, you could be.
But you miss it, in a like weird like city life kind of way. So that I think made me feel comfortable right away. Like I felt right at home with all the like chaos and like all the people and the general like big city vibe. Mm-hmm. I guess the adjustment, like one thing I had to deal with was winter, because I've like lived in tropical climates my whole life, and I was like, the cold.
Kerala of all places.
Yeah, exactly. And Bombay is just as hot once you come like.
That's a fact. Bombay, the climate in Bombay is like special. Like it just doesn't get cold. Like. In situations where like other parts of the country are like a kind of cold, that just doesn't even happen in Bombay. It's just the seasons are hot, more hot, monsoon, and then hot again.
I always found it really funny how in Bombay, like every December, you have that like 1 month where you have like that cool breeze in the evenings.
Ever so.
Everybody in Bombay.
Yeah, ever so slight hint.
It's like a little tickle.
Yeah.
Just everybody in Bombay just insists.
It's not a breeze as much as it is a suggestion of a breeze.
Of a breeze, exactly.
The breeze is suggested. Yeah.
And everybody in Bombay insists that it's winter, and then they all like you suddenly see everybody like wearing jackets. Like my friends would come over and they would have like jackets on. I was like, what the fuck kind of, like, why are you wearing a jacket? Like,
as a Canadian, that's just preposterous.
As a tropical person, I was like this is not cold, but like especially when I moved here, I was like, this is insulting. Like, because like it's actually cold here. And apparently last winter here was a mild one. That's what my friends say.
Oh man, yeah, winter. I officially miss winter. Like, I used to struggle through it when I lived in Canada, but I've officially been missing it a bit, and I'm looking forward to spending my next winter in Canada. We'll see.
Are you planning to head back?
Yeah, it's become a joke. Like we all know that I've been trying to get back to Canada for like years, but I just keep finding reasons to stick around. But the funny thing about the pandemic, I shouldn't really say that, but I guess people know what I mean, and we're like 9 months deep into this, so like whatever. The funny thing about the pandemic is that I had actually finally booked a flight after like 2 years or 2.5 years of just telling everybody that I'm leaving in 2 months. I finally booked a flight, and then because of the pandemic, I had to cancel the flight. So that's pretty funny.
Were you supposed to come in March?
Yep, I was supposed to come in March, and I had a return ticket booked, and I would have been back by then. I had a return ticket booked for August, and so it's amazing that whole timeline has just disappeared.
Yeah.
But I still have the ticket. Like the ticket is flexible because shout out to Emirates, and so I will have to get back there eventually. My passport's going to expire soon. My passport's going to expire in the first half of next year. So
oh shit!
I'd like to get back.
So you're gonna have to make it back.
Yeah. So another funny thing about I can't communicate, to anybody else out there listening. I can't communicate how silly it is to live your life expecting that you're going to move to the other side of the world in 2 months and just drag that out for 2 years. Like, it's a very, really strange way to live, and I don't recommend it. But one of the byproducts of that was basically that, I have my Canadian credit card and my Canadian debit card, my bank card, and I'm looking at the expiry dates on them, and I'm like, yeah, like, I'll be back in Canada before this thing expires. Like, I'll just, and then like, I'm still here. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh man, this thing is expired. And I have to call somebody at the bank and and then get one sent over, and it's fine. And then I look at my debit card and it's like, yeah, I'm going to be back in Canada before this thing expires. And then a year and a half later, the card is expired and I need to make payments, and it's like, holy shit. So then I got to get that sent over. And now I'm looking at my passport, and I feel pretty convinced that I'm going to have to make it back to Canada before. I mean, I could obviously get it renewed from here and all that stuff. There's like a whole scene, but I'd like to get back to Canada to renew it, and I plan to stick around there for a while. So we'll see what happens. Yeah.
It's about time.
It's about time.
I thought you would be here like a while ago.
Yeah, it's such a joke. Like all my friends over here think it's really funny. And I mean, the truth of the matter is I've been lucky. I just have kept on getting cool and interesting projects that made me want to stick around for even longer. And I obviously I'm going to be coming back here, but I haven't been back in Canada in over 3 years, like 4 years, 3 years, something like that.
Really?
Yeah, since the beginning of 2017, I haven't been back in Canada, which is the longest.
I remember you went back once while I was in Bombay.
Yeah,
right?
I went to produce the Roundelay album.
Your friend, yeah.
Yeah, and so I got back to Bombay right at the beginning of 2017, and I've been here since. So.
That's a long time.
Yeah, it's so I'd like to get back at some point. So what else was like an adjustment over there, like in terms of the school life, in terms of what's the...
Well, I mean, school life took a while to get used to, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, there is something like nice about going back to school and going to classes and learning in a structured way again.
Mm-hmm.
But I think on one hand, I suddenly realized that even though we're all much older than the last time we went to school, I mean, when's the last time that I had to make friends, from scratch?
Yeah.
Which felt like a weird thing to do an adult, to make friends with my classmates and get you I felt like I was back in high school again, and I felt like a weird pimply teenager or something.
Mm-hmm.
So I always try to make sure I'm acting cool and rubbish. So I think it was kind of brushing up on my social skills in a way, in a different kind of way, because I feel I don't know, the way you make friends when you're working and freelancing and generally moving around the city is a little different than the way you make friends as a student.
Yep.
And also, I mean, being poor, fucking sucks. I forgot, I mean, not that I was rich in Bombay, but I was making money by myself, I was accountable for my own income and my own lifestyle. But now it's not that way, and I have to think like a student and do everything on a budget. Which is great. I mean, it's kind of fun, but it's just a little like strange, I guess, to do it like after living a more like professional adult life the last couple of years.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's also really fun to like be. I mean, being in grad school is not the same, I guess, as like being in like undergrad, where you're a little more like carefree with life. But it's still fun. Like, it's still fun to be a student, I guess. I also try to like remind myself. I think one of the challenges I have work-wise a lot is that I keep thinking like I'm doing a commission when I'm doing a class assignment, and it's like, oh, like meeting the brief, which is good, of course, like when you're like looking at a task to do. But also, I mean, like part of being in school is that you can experiment and like make mistakes and take risks, because if you fail, like your client's not gonna like not pay you.
Yeah.
You know, so I kind of have to like remind myself of that instead of like doing the thing that like meets the brief, I can also like try something new or like take a risk. I mean, I like to like be really good at everything I do, so it's a little hard for me to do that. But I think that's my like biggest adjustment of like thinking like a student.
You wish you were a bit willing to be a bit more free with it, rather than looking at it like treating it in a similar way as a work assignment. Yeah.
Like, it's hard to get like let go of the pressure to like perform.
Yeah.
You know, like it's like, oh, but has to like be great. Sometimes in school it doesn't have to be like great. I don't know. I think it's an opportunity to learn.
Yeah, you need that room to fail and just also just even iterate an idea.
Like, failure is good. You know, I feel like
yeah, it needs to be embraced more.
It sucks, but you always learn from failure.
I recently saw a talk on YouTube by the CEO and or founder of Patreon. And it's a pretty corny talk for my tastes in terms of what I usually watch, but it's still a really good one, despite some of the corniness. No offense to the Patreon guy. But I had no idea who this guy was, but he is also a member of this musical act called Pomplamoose, I think. And so he decided to do a talk about all of the misses that he's had, instead of, because like normally these inspirational talks are about someone gets up and says, oh, you know, I did this and I had this idea and it caught on and here I am, and it's like a, you know, triumphant story. But you don't hear about all of the things that person tried and failed at.
Yeah.
You know, and not only failed at leading up to the thing, like the thing that broke them, but also the failures that continued to happen after they made it. And so this guy did a really sweet talk where he's talking about, all of the things like since teenage years, like all the ideas that he'd been kind of throwing out, making, creating, doing music videos, releasing albums, making animations, making videos. And it's a testament to certainly anybody that does this for any long period of time, the amount of false starts and things like that, especially if you want to be an artist, if you want to move forward in your creativity and cover new territory, then you have to be willing to experiment as well. That's true.
And I guess, like you said, like fear of failure is, I mean, it's only natural, but like if I look back now at like all the years that I've tried things, I mean, most of like what got me to like what I'm doing now and like why I'm doing it was mostly because I spent most of my time like doing things that made me realize I didn't want to do them.
Yeah.
You know, which at one level feels like an absurd waste of time, but then it's also like, well, I wouldn't have figured out what I really want to do if I didn't try all these other things that I thought I wanted to do or thought I was good at, and then realized that like, oh no, like I hate this.
Yeah.
You know, like
what was do you mind saying what some of those things were, like weird stops along the way?
The things that I hated. Well, when I started, I wanted to do graphic design, right? And I mean, I do still, I would say, do some kind of like some level of graphic design work, sometimes along with illustration work. And there is a part of it that I enjoy. But I guess I thought graphic design to begin with because I didn't really know like what other options there were. And I remember one day, like in Srishti, I was like, it was really late at night and I was at my like one of my friend's place. And we were just like, we were staying up late and like work, like we were on the same, like some class, and we were working on an assignment, like just working together. And it's like, I don't know, it's like 3 a.m. and and I'm working on like whatever my assignment, and then I look at a screen and he was working on some kind of like label for like water packaging, whatever. And he was like zoomed in on the screen, like nerding out over the like kerning of the like tiny ingredient label, like those things. And I mean, he was like he was in the zone, but I remember looking at him at like 3 a.m, tired, and being like, I fucking hate this. Like, if this is what my life is going to be, like as a graphic designer, I will kill myself. You know, like it was like and so that was my like first reaction, like looking at him doing that, and I was like, no, like it was like the earth came crashing. I was like, absolutely not. Like in my gut, I was like, you cannot do this. Like this is like living hell. And then my next reaction was that I was like, well, then what the fuck am I going to do? Like this was like in like second year of college or something. I was like, what do you mean like that you don't want to be a graphic designer? Like you spent 2 years doing like typography 101. You know, what the fuck are you going to do then? Like I'm going to tell my parents I came to art school and now I changed my mind. Like, so I mean, but then
it's always a rough moment.
And I mean, it's not a good look to like say when you're in art school, you know, because it's like, well, they let you go to art school.
Yes, yeah.
There's that. Like that's what kids in like engineering say.
Yeah, there's multiple ways ways to feel bad about it. Like they let you go to art school and now you're copping out. And there's also the like giving up on your passion angle of it. You know, there's lots of ways to make yourself feel guilty, but it's good to be able to change your mind, and it's good to be able to give people that sort of moral insurance policy, I guess, for lack of a better way to put it, that it's okay to change your mind, to change course. What you described there with the graphic design was very similar to what I experienced when I was when I got a job at the Bollywood production house for music. I remember doing that. Yeah, I felt very similar. That was very shortly. It was around the time I met you, because I had lived here for a year, and I was like, I love it here. There's like lots of amazing people and wonderful people I met here, and so I attempted to look for work here, and I ended up in a Bollywood production house. And a day of doing that, I was like, man, I don't know if this is
for me
gonna work for me. But the whole day that I showed up, and the whole day that I was there, I was doing it with the mentality of like, okay, like I'm really lucky to have an opportunity in the, you know, to create music and to earn a living. Like, you know, I should be really grateful, and I still am actually grateful that I got that opportunity. And actually I'm very grateful I got the opportunity, because like doing it for one day made it really sink in. It's like, oh, like if I do this, I'm not going to be very happy. Like it's going to ruin the main thing that I enjoy doing. It's gonna fuck that up real badly. So it allowed me to change course, and it allowed me to change course in a way that was sensible. Now that I had that sort of bump in the road, I always knew to look back and say, like, if I'm doing a project, like, hey, like, is this really what I want to be doing? Like, why am I working on this, or why am I pursuing this? You know, like, does it fulfill some metaphysical bottom line for me? I don't know. I just made up.
I mean, also I think sometimes like certain kinds of things that we do it to make ends meet. I mean, because like
that balance is difficult.
Important.
Yeah.
But also at the same time, I feel like, well, sure, like you do it to like pay the bills, and it's just like, okay, I hate this, but this is what I have to do right now. Like, but I also feel like sometimes like boring, like shitty work like that I've done, like even professionally. Well, one, it was like for all of those reasons, but it's also like sometimes those opportunities lead to other opportunities that you want. You know, like it pads up the portfolio, like it gives you, and so in that way, like I didn't really, like there were times when I was like really miserable, but like overall I would say I didn't mind the like struggle of like doing like social media posts, you know, like to pay bills, like God, exhausting, and like like the worst, like tacky, like nonsense, you know, like I don't have any of that. Like you can't find that work anywhere. Stuff that
you told me some funny stories about brand design stuff, like work. I recall some funny stories you told me about that stuff. I won't make you recount them, but I do remember you telling me something.
I've had some like colorful clients, but I've also had some like fantastic clients, you know, like who really make working a joy, like even when it's like tight deadlines and things like that. Like, and I'm always like thankful that I have clients like that. I think I've been really fortunate. Some people really like it's such a pleasure to work with them that it really kind of like gives you that like feeling of like, yes, like this is why I'm doing this, like.
Yeah. So now that you are now that you're studying your MFA in New York, what are some of the new types of things that you are exploring in your studies? Like, how is it? I like personally, I've seen your work evolve in the last short while. It's always been evolving, but I don't have a good technical base or knowledge to really point out how qualitatively it's changed. So I don't know.
I have been. I think like initially when I was in it, like the beginning of the year, like there were times when I felt like I was too close to like really see it, and like there were points when I was like, I don't know, like what am I doing here? Like like is my work really getting better? Like is this really like doing anything for me? Like. Like, and especially when like I was like saying no to like I haven't really been taking up too many commissions. I've done a handful, like because I've been trying to remind myself that my priority right now should be school. If I'm going to do it, then I should like commit to it. And the point is to take a break from like professional life to go to school.
Yep.
But I guess like as the year kind of like ended and like I look back now, I can see things that like I wouldn't have done if I wasn't in school and that I wouldn't like continue doing. I think one is that we had a writing class, and I mean I did like little things in writing class like because we had to do that every week. But I think that also kind of got me back into writing more regularly. Like kind of. I mean I've always liked writing, but like taking the time to kind of like sit down and do that like more often.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, it's really been like nice to like get back to writing a bit. One of the projects that I'm working right now on since last semester is actually a book about Bombay, and so it's kind of it's like a short story, and it's like I guess the format will be like illustrated novel because it's going to be like paragraphs of text and then it's going to be like little pictures. It's not really like a comic as such. But it's been like, so I've been doing stuff like that, which I feel like when I started that project, like there was a part of me that was like, oh, like this is exactly the kind of like personal projects that I wanted to do and didn't know that this is what I wanted to do. Like I also haven't like written a piece of fiction like that ever, I think. Like, because a lot of the writing I do is usually like first person and like kind of autobiographical. So it's more like writing a journal, like really like writing fiction feels different. So I feel like that's something new that I've been doing, and I've been finding more ways to like bring text and image together, which I really enjoy. And the other class that I've really enjoyed doing is like drawing on location, which we did like every week again. And I've always kind of like carried a sketchbook and like been drawing wherever I go. It's something that I enjoy, but I think having that class like pushed me to like, I don't know, like push that like something that I do already, like bigger scale, like try new things, like go to different kinds of places, see what kind of narratives I can find in that. And I think that's really helped because it kind of made me realize that a lot of the work that I've done till now is very kind of like drawn from things that I see in life. So I, like it's a class that's been making me think more about the kind of work I make, like trying to like recognize what narratives I'm looking at or why I'm thinking about certain kinds of things and people.
It's really interesting what you say about the writing. That's really exciting because, I mean, we've spoken about how you like to convey a narrative, but I never actually knew about your desire to write like extended works of fiction. And so that's interesting in terms of how that can connect with your visual arts, but it's also interesting in kind of what that means in terms of you being a writer. It's not, I did not include it in the list of descriptors when I introduced you, and it's cool. I'm happy that I can perhaps add it to the description,
Yeah, I think it's also something like a role that I think I'm like trying to get more comfortable like adopting for myself because actually way before I wanted to be an artist, I wanted to be a writer. Like when I was a kid, one of my like life goals was that, I want to be a writer. And like the type of writing that I wanted to do kept changing like over the years. so like there was a time when I wanted to be like a music journalist, and sometimes I wanted to like do war reporting, and sometimes I just wanted to write like novels and short stories. And then I think at like some point, as I was growing older, also because I like read so much and like kept reading like excellent, like amazing, right? Like, you know, when you read really good writing, you know, like, and you just know that it's just like really good writing. And like, I don't know, people gave me good feedback on the stuff that I would write, and like everybody was like, oh yeah, you write well. But I don't think I ever like I also have this thing that if I'm going to do something, then I want to be like really good at it, right? Like I don't want to be like a like mediocre skilled person being like, I'm following my dream. Like fuck that, I'll find another dream that I'm better at. Like I'm realistic that way. So somewhere along the line, I just felt like I was better at drawing than I was at writing, and I was like, well, this is the thing that I'm going to do. Like I just didn't feel like I felt like I had too much good writing to be like, I was like, I'm just articulate, you know, like I'm not I mean, you know, like that's like, I mean,
you're very articulate for sure.
Yeah, like I mean, but I mean that's why people think like are telling me that writing is good, but like that's just like articulate writing. So I guess I feel a little more confident now, more because I'm trying to like be less scared about like, oh, like am I a like wordsmith, like weaver, like poet, like bullshit. I mean, I don't think I'm any of those things. But the thing that I enjoy about writing, and which is why I think I'm just going to keep doing more of it, is like the story that I'm working on now, for example, like the number of different things, and like, you know, like I like to tell stories like constantly, like I'm basically just like the neighborhood gossip, I feel. But I collect.
I've never found your stories, I would like to say on record, I've never found your stories to be gossipy. Really?
Well, I guess it's the nature in which I say the stories, right? Even if they're not gossipy.
I mean, you recount entertaining anecdotes that shed light on our day-to-day lives. That's a notch or two above gossip. Or perhaps, you know, if one is a skilled enough orator, then they can transform gossip into something that's useful for society. I mean, gossip is useful. That's the thing, right? Like, like it evolutionarily, like the whole point of gossip is so that you and I can sort out what we believe in and come to some shared set of, you know, principles. Like if you and I are talking about, you know, like our mutual friend Steve, like the conversation isn't really about Steve. It's about you and me. Like we're just like working out. Did Steve, he did this. Oh, you shouldn't do that. Yeah.
And this is how I feel about it.
Yeah. So we both agree. People shouldn't do that thing that Steve did. Like that's and then that's how we sort out our, so I guess, you know, like gossip has a function. So, you know, you could look at it differently. You could say that you are a person that, I don't know. I don't consider it gossip. I refuse to attach that word to the level of discourse that I am familiar with from you. Okay. But carry on.
But I guess it's, maybe I use the word gossip because I was thinking of the way I put the story together. It started out and I thought it was about one thing. But like all the like different stories that like other people's stories, or like things other people have told me, or like things that I've seen, or like things that I've heard, like at the end of it, the piece of writing that I had, like the story had, like I can see all the like different places in my life that this came from. And that was kind of like fascinating to me, you know, because I didn't, it was the first time I think when I wrote something where like, and it took me months, like I spent like everybody was like, you are crazy, stop writing, like start drawing. And I was like, no, like I have to like it's not ready yet, you know, like all the things that I have to say are not there yet. And it was kind of like the first time that I've kind of felt like I always thought it's really corny, but you know, when people say like the story wrote itself, or like the story was inside and it just came out. But it was kind of like that, you know, like, I mean, I was reworking things and like moving things around, but it was just like kind of cool to me, I think, like to see all the different places that I was pulling like stories from to make this one story.
And this thing is because this I think a thing like, that's been released already? Like, am I, or is it something you're still working on?
It's something I'm still working on. Okay. I mean, I'm like, I should have been done by now, but I'm late.
No. The reason I ask is because the more that I listen to you describe it, the more epic it sounds, and then the more bad.
I mean, I'll send you the.
You don't have to send it to me right away, but I would start like as you were describing it, I was like, if this thing is already out and I don't know about it, then what the hell?
I mean, of course,
you know,
I
like
would send it.
That's what I mean. Like, no, not even you would send. I just like as a person who is in my network prominently and is a close friend of mine. If I would have assumed that I would have seen this already type thing.
Yeah, I haven't really been sharing much.
And so
about
I was just double checking. Like, wait a minute, you didn't already put this out, did you?
No, I've been working on it for a while, and I haven't really been sharing anything publicly. I think.
Okay.
Not too much. Not really.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been sending it to friends and things as I'm working on it, but I think what will maybe be familiar to you, I don't know when you read it, is that. Do you remember Fat Uncle? Like, do you remember My Neighbor?
Yes.
Yes.
Wow,
okay.
yes,
So the story is about Fat Uncle.
You're welcome to tell people about Fat Uncle.
So the story is about Fat Uncle. I mean, he's the protagonist, and
oh shit! Of course. And in fact, I think you mentioned an earlier iteration of this idea to me. Now that you have tied it together with Fat Uncle, I think there was some.
Yeah, you remember I used to be writing down what he was doing all the time, like a fucking creep.
Oh shit!
Right? I feel like everyone who spent regular time at that apartment of mine, like, came to hang out with me on a regular basis. I feel like, and I know there were times when my friends would look at me like this is unhealthy.
So
they were,
Fat
you're obsessed
Uncle,
with this man. Because I don't. Fat Uncle is my protagonist.
He's your protagonist. I like that. That's what you're sticking to when I try to get you to elaborate on who Fat Uncle is. But what I'm really trying to get you to talk about is to give people some a context for the fact that in your apartment in Bombay, in Khar specifically, there was an uncle who was visible from your. You lived on what floor?
From my bedroom. Yeah. I lived on the 3rd floor. Right? Yeah.
And Fat Uncle would just be a guy that you could see, and he would be going about his day.
He never left the living room. Yeah. Ever. He just never, that was why I was obsessed with him, because and he had his hours, right? He was up the whole night. He would go to bed I think around 6 in the morning, which was usually the time that I would wake up. So sometimes I would catch him like shutting the curtains, and sometimes they'd already be shut. But he would go to bed around 10, and then he would be back again. Like the curtains would open again around 11 when he was up. But like no matter what time, like no matter how early I woke up, no matter how late I came home at night, but he was always in the same room. Like he had a fixed schedule and he just never left. And I think I feel like that's why I kept telling people, because I'm like, look, I can bet on what he's doing right now.
You had voyeurism thrust upon you. Yeah.
I did. I just didn't have an option. And then there was 2 weeks when my curtain rod broke and I couldn't get someone to come help me put it back.
Yeah.
When me and Fat Uncle just had no privacy.
No, it's just wow.
Yeah, it just got really personal then, because I feel like there's also something really cool about the you remember My Neighbors, right? All around, there's a weird kind of privacy in Bombay, right? And I feel like anywhere where there's lots of people,
we're packed together so tightly, and there's certain balconies where when you step out on the balcony and you look around and you're just surrounded by other balconies and other windows. My home in Toronto is in a similar complex, one of the rare scenarios where you might experience that over there, but. Fat Uncle is really interesting, and it's also interesting in the context of the vibe of your room, because you lived in this sharing apartment type situation where in a way your bedroom was your living room. It was set up in that kind of way where if you...
It was kind of like a studio apartment vibe, I think. That's what I was trying to do.
Yeah, if your friends were coming to visit you, they would come and hang out in your room. And so your room had this super chill, low light vibe of us just, getting stoned and talking shit. And the fun thing about living in Bombay is that when that's your lifestyle, and then you look out the window and you see some other person's lifestyle, Fat Uncle or whoever it is. So just as I was saying that just now,
yeah,
I was I've said it a bunch on the just in terms of describing and repeating it. But is it the type of thing where in this day and age in 2020 you would have a different name for Fat Uncle, or is that is it? It almost feels weird just saying it just now
to call him that.
Yeah, but I don't know. How do you feel about it?
I thought about it briefly, but then I was you know what, I don't know, man. Even in the story that I've written, he's the only character that doesn't have a name, and everyone, he's constantly referred to in third person as Fat Uncle.
Yeah.
And I mean, even the other characters, if they're talking about him, like, everybody just says Fat Uncle. And, well, I mean, we talked about this a little bit in my class when we were, like, critiquing each other's ideas. And I think one of the reasons that I stuck to it, and it was kind of like feedback that I got, was because, well, that it was just the name that was given to him, right? Like, it's the name that, like, and it's also because, like, why do we, like, it's why do I call him, like, uncle? Like, it's because, like, I mean, that's what you do. Like, you call, like, even strange, like, random, like I was going to say uncles and aunties, but, like, it's like all the adults.
It's a shout out to the naming convention that we use in a place like Bombay, where, like, you know, in the nightlife scene, there was this one old guy that would go to, like, all the clubs and the DJ get sets, and we would call him Bling Uncle. So that exists, or, like, you know, that sketchy, you know, auntie in car that you go to pick up, that really sketchy weed, like, that, you know, we attach uncle and auntie at the end of everything. And
I mean, my pan and egg guy at the gate of my apartment, who were all Malayalis, by the way, like that, like, and which is why we had that whole like family vibe going on. But I would call him cigarette uncle. Like, you know, you just basically take the descriptive word of, like, because of the uncle auntie culture, I mean, there are so many people in your life whose names you don't really know, right? Like, when you address them, like
something uncle, insert.
Yeah, it's something uncle. And, like, I mean, it's not like they want to tell you that. I feel like, in a way, like, it's also, like, personal. It's like, you don't need to know cigarette uncle's name. He doesn't want you to. He doesn't want to know your name. Like, they used to call me Shield Girl.
Yeah, there you
because
go.
I lived in Shirapal. Like,
and there are also people that have, like, multiple names sometimes, you know, like
names,
like this guy goes by, like, Chotu, but he also goes by, like like, you know,
a lot of Chotus that I've met in my life are not Chotu at all. I don't know if that's, like, something that's done on purpose, but it's just something I've noticed.
It's like giving somebody the nickname Tiny. In that old joke. But okay, so that's interesting with regards to the name. I think you're right. Like, it is just the name that he was given, and it is real. It is real in as much as, and it's even real in your experience of him, because you never spoke to Fat Uncle. He's just there.
Exactly.
It's what it is. What it is.
And a big part of what I wanted to say in my story was because, I mean, my theory about like I didn't actually think that. I think when I lived there for 3 years, I was with Fat Uncle, really, like. And in fact, I don't know if you were the one who was with me, but, like, there was one night in 3 years where, and, like, you know, like, Fat Uncle was always, like, shirtless in his, like, lungi, like, he was just, like, that's how he was, like, looking all grubby. And then one time, it was like a weekend, and I was with some friends, and we were kind of, like, at my apartment, and we were, like, going out somewhere in Bandra. And as we were exiting the gates, just, like a man entered the compound, and we were exiting, and we both kind of, like, look at each other, and it was, like, that feeling that, like, I really know someone, but I just can't tell who, and I'm looking at his face, and I'm like, I know him, and he's looking at me, right? And after he, like, and then I turned to see which, like, block he's going into, and he goes up into, like, Fat Uncle's, and then suddenly I was like, guys, that was Fat Uncle.
Oh, wow.
But he had clothes on.
Wow.
You know, and I just didn't I just didn't recognize him with clothes on. Like, it was weird.
That's beautiful. That's like the, you know, that's like the thing that happens in season 5 of the sitcom, whichever sitcom is your life. I guess we decided it was Seinfeld earlier, but I think we would be Seinfeld kind of people. You know,
we kind of were Seinfeld kind of people. All we did was literally talk about nothing.
Yeah.
You know, like,
aspire to friends, settle for Seinfeld.
I don't know if you're as smart or funny.
Which is.
I mean, I think Seinfeld is objectively.
It's cooler. It's cooler. It's and objectively better.
The humor is better. Like, I mean, it's smarter.
I mean,
you know, like, it's not easy jokes.
That comment that I just made. That comment I just made was really meant to be a backhanded swipe at friends, but it was unsuccessful because you know we're in Seinfeld, and that's just the kind of humor that we're dealing with here.
So I mean, we had Kramers in our life.
We did, yeah. Sometimes we pass the Kramer roll around a bit. Sometimes I feel like I'm Kramer.
Me too.
This narrative thing, this story thing, is really cool, and I'm looking forward to seeing it come to fruition.
Yeah, hopefully I'll have something to share soon.
Yeah. No, I'm going to say it again. I'm really excited that you're writing fiction, For the information of people, you did the artwork for my beat tape that I just put out.
I did.
Some months back, Sleepless in Andheri West. That is Taarika's work, and it's really awesome. And it's the only ever time that I like released something and got somebody else to do the artwork. Normally I just take weird corny photos and attach them to my solo music. Yeah, it was really
it was fun working on that.
It was great that we finally got to collaborate, and I also really enjoyed that you were able to send me the file, like the Photoshop file, because I had purchased a subscription to Photoshop recently.
So you could mess around with
it was like cool to be able to receive the raw file and manipulate it to fit, whatever. Like, that was cool. I was able to learn quite a bit from just looking at your work, and seeing how you did the layers and stuff. Like, it helped me understand Photoshop. Is that still the main software that you use, or is there other stuff that you would use?
Well, if I was doing digital illustration before, when I was working with my drawing tablet, I used Photoshop a lot, for all my digital drawing. But I got the iPad last year, and I think at this point, just from the handiness of it, the fact that I can kind of be doing something else on my laptop. I mean, I think I can do that with monitors and shit, but something about the handiness of the iPad at this point, and I use Procreate on the iPad, which is I think my favorite drawing software that I've tried out of all the iPad apps.
Is that a paid software?
And also, yeah, but it's a one-time payment thing, okay. I think it's $10 or something, and then you have it, and then you don't really pay again.
Yeah.
And you can also export your Procreate file as a Photoshop file. So if you need to mess around with it on Photoshop.
Oh wow, that's all you need.
Yeah. That's all. And apparently there's a new update,
the cross-platform compatibility is key. If they can do that, then you're laughing.
I mean, it's one of the main reasons, because it's so easy to export it as a PSD, is one of the main reasons that I don't really use anything else. It's super seamless for me if I'm working on a project. I do the drawing. I mean, I can be in bed doing the drawing on the iPad. It's more the handiness of it, I would say, than anything else. And the fact that then it's seamless to put on Photoshop to do layouts or make the final files and stuff. Your album art, for example, I touched up, we did small changes, right? Before it was done. And I was working on it after a while. So I actually threw it on the iPad and kind of reworked it there, and then made it a PSD the second time when I sent it to you.
That's excellent.
Yeah, so I feel the iPad is I don't remember the last time that I pulled out my drawing tablet to work actually. I almost exclusively use the iPad now.
It's a game changer
for digital drawing. Yeah, it's a game changer.
Yeah. So when did the lockdown begin for you in New York?
So I think it was, we just went back to school after spring break. So I think early March maybe. And it was super sudden, because I mean, from the time that we got back in Jan, after Christmas break or whatever, there was the whole general tension about the coronavirus happening internationally. Then there was the first few cases around us a little bit. But I don't think at that point any of us, even though it was serious in other countries, it just didn't feel like it was going to be the way it ended up being here, at least in the beginning. And we knew it was getting more intense, but we were kind of prepared for a short term quarantine kind of thing.
Yeah.
And they told us very suddenly. I remember I had just come home from class when I got a call from one of my friends, and they were like, "Well, Kim says we have to close up our studios and we can't come back to school tomorrow." So I rushed back just to pick up things that I needed on an urgent basis, but I didn't take most of my shit, because we kind of packed up, kind of thinking it's going to be a 2 or 3 week thing, and then we'll just be back at it. They'll nip it in the bud and everything will be fine.
Yeah.
We were terribly unprepared, I think, mentally at least. Because then we went back, we went home, and they, we had a few days off, and then they switched everything online. I mean, the first, till the semester ended, because we were also, lockdown just went into effect in New York, and, I think I was leaving the house, maybe once a week or once in 2 weeks if I could, which was only to go buy groceries, but for nothing else. And then my flatmate and I would try to do a walk around the block every few days, and we try to go in the early morning and things when like not too many people were around. So it was kind of like it also didn't help that like it was early spring. It was still kind of like cold and miserable, and you're just like suddenly locked up in your room. Like you don't really know what's going on. Everyone, like, it's chaos. Everyone is scared. Like you can't see anybody. And I don't know, like every day it felt like something new was going to happen. We didn't know if, like, everyone was going nuts, like stocking up on the fucking toilet paper, man. Like, come on. Like, you know, like every time I went to the store, it was like it would either be really busy or it would be like completely empty, you know, and I think it was also like scary because nobody knew how to act with each other, you know, like it was this like new world, and when you see human beings, you don't really know how you're supposed to like interact anymore. And once the like lockdown started easing up a few months ago, and like we started kind of going out and like meeting people a little bit again, I actually realized it took me a while, like hanging out with human beings in real life, like even my like friends. It took a lot out of me, you know, like it felt weird. Like I felt like an animal released from its cage. Like, like I don't know, even though I was talking to people constantly online, like I don't know, like going back to the real world, even in this like new, like limited capacity, new normal, it's still like it took, like now it's easier, but it took a while, you know, like because lockdown was weird, and it was like you just don't know what's going on at some point. Just like
lockdown is very weird. The first few times that I got out after lockdown was to get high, like smoke weed. And I hadn't smoked weed in like some months, you know, like it was the first 3 months of lockdown. I hadn't smoked anything, and I had like a pretty rough day. You know, I think I had like a big argument with my mother. So I went, it was when the lockdown was briefly relaxed in June, and I went to visit a friend. And because I hadn't smoked weed in such a long time, I got really, really high.
Super high.
Yeah. And then I was sort of it helped in terms of, you know, calming down my mind with regards to whatever was bothering me. But it also made me hyper focused on the fact that it's like I'm out and I'm not supposed to be out, and maybe what if I just ruin the whole thing, you know, like that kind of thought process.
Guilt, right? The constant guilt.
But I mean, the situation in India right now is such a hot mess. Nobody knows what's going on, and I have mostly been staying, like, keeping to myself. I've been going out to get groceries and stuff.
Yeah.
But every now and then, like, I've met up with people. Like, I went to a friend's place yesterday, and I had some friends over the day before that. But other than that, it hasn't been too crazy. But the numbers are insane, and the numbers are insane, but also people are tired of hearing about them. So it has this double effect.
Yeah.
Where it's just, there's so much of it, and people also just don't care. They're just fed up now, you know?
I mean, I think it was the same way here. Like, in the first few months, you're like, oh my God. And the numbers are only going up, which is like, just makes everything worse. But after a while, like, I mean, like, I would feel guilty about like how much I didn't feel anything. You know, like after a point, a number is a number. Like when you're like locked up in the house all the time, like you're a point, I was like, yeah, okay, whatever, man. Like, I mean, like, what are we going to do about it? You know, like, I don't know. Like, we're all staying at home. People just keep dying. Like, I can't, like, I'm exhausted of like feeling like terrified and sad. Like it kind of numbs you, I think, after a while.
Yes. Yep. And I mean, I was speculating about whether I've already had it. Like, who knows? Like, I thought.
Yeah, same.
I experienced.
I mean, the thing is, you could be completely asymptomatic too.
Yeah, I experienced some very mild, almost negligible symptoms, and that were kind of strange in and of themselves, and it made me wonder, like, yo, have I already had this? Like, what's happened here? But yeah, like, this is so weird. Who knows how long we're going to be stuck in this, and what the long-term effects are going to be. I think the video calls will continue. Now that we've unlocked this capacity, probably video calls will be more normalized. Probably a lot of courses and lectures that are not well suited to the online format will happily go back to the way they were before. But a lot of tasks that we thought had to be done in person, we realized we can do in this video call format. So there's probably... I mean,
I'm going back to complete online classes this semester. Like, I mean, I'm in the city. But we were supposed to go back to in-person learning. That was the original plan. And I mean, the city has been improving and like things are getting better. But I don't know. I mean, there was like, it's with the current, apparently it's still not possible. So the good thing for us is that we have like individual studio spaces, like our department. So I think once school officially opens, we have like limited time, but you can be within your like individual space, like working in your studio, like on your shit, wearing a mask and all that stuff. But all our classes are going to be online, like everything.
Yeah.
Like even though we're in the city, like meeting certain people, like in the parks or whatever, but like we're still doing all.
Have your classes started already?
One of them has, because we're starting a little early because it's thesis year and all that. But I think the rest of them start officially on the 28th. So they also pushed opening school by a month, because otherwise we would have started classes by now.
Okay, yeah, because we are like
traditionally,
we're in the second half of September. Yeah. And so, I mean, how do you feel about that? I mean, I guess you at some level you feel like it's necessary, but you know, you've traveled across the world to pursue an education, and what does it feel like that now the courses are kind of online? What is that?
Well, I mean, about? When they first said it, because it was also kind of like late in the game, like we spent most of the summer assuming we were going back to school, and the city was like gradually opening further and all of that. But then when we heard, okay, like it was a decision, and they were like, okay, all semester, like it's all of fall semester, which basically means like running through to like Christmas, right? Yeah. So I mean, there was like the initial like reaction was, I was like, what the fuck, like, and I mean, I had this like thing, I was like, should I even do this? Like maybe because like some students were deferring the year, you know, and like being like, okay, I'm gonna take the year off and then like do final year like next year. But as an international student, if I defer the year, then my student visa is not valid. That means I have to like come back to India in the next 30 days. So it was like for a few days, I was a little like, I wasn't really sure what the right decision was. I didn't know if it made sense. I didn't know if it was worth it. All of that. But I think I did kind of like think about it. I talked to some of my friends. I talked to my parents, and I mean, I don't know, man. Like this is the world that we are living in now. You know, like even like what is the guarantee that 1 year from now that everything's going to be like back to the way it was? I don't really think it's going to go back to the way it was, right? Like not for a while.
I think we're going to be looking at a new world when we get to the other side of this.
Exactly. So I mean, considering that, like I was like, I don't know, like there are no like if anything, the pandemic has taught us like there's no guarantees in life. Like this is something that like my therapist pointed out to me at one point. Like during one of our sessions, when I was like, I gotta take this and I gotta take that, like fucking COVID, like it's unfair, and like I mean all the shit that we know, but just like venting about it. And then she kind of pointed out to me that she said, well, the thing is that we never actually have control. Yeah. Like even in the old world, we never act like we made plans with the illusion of control, right? Like we planned our lives and our futures because the world was like normal, I guess, like quote unquote, but like. Technically speaking, you never really have control of anything in life. Yeah. It's just that the old world allowed us a stronger illusion of having control, and the pandemic kind of forces you, like this kind of life forces you to constantly acknowledge how little control you really have, right? Like, and that's kind of like scary and exhausting because it's something that we kind of, I guess, like trick our minds into thinking that we don't have. So I mean, I don't know. I thought about it. I was like, well, like if I've learned anything in the last like almost year at this point, it is really trying to like learn to accept that we have no control over things, which is hard for someone like me who's a fucking control freak. Yeah. But also like liberating in a way, right? Like it's I think it's been really good for me to learn. It's helped me to question things when I'm like have trouble making decisions. Like it helps you to reprioritize what are things that are really important. You know, like living like this really kind of forces you to like make choices, and it's, I don't know, you can choose to be like less frivolous in your way of thinking and way of acting. I think I prioritize things more, and I know what I have like more value doing and experiencing. You know, I was like, well, this is the new normal. So if this is how things are going to be, then I mean, I'm just going to have to adapt. If this is how school is right now, like this was the plan anyway. Like it's not my ideal plan of how I wanted to do my MFA in New York. Like this is not my idea, like this is not how I envisioned my first summer in New York City, for example. You know, like there's all the summertime activities that I dreamed about and did not get to do. But I didn't have a shitty summer, man. Like I spent a lot of time outdoors. I mean, I sat around in parks and like did like social distance things. And there's a whole phase now of like drinking on the street because all the bars have like curbside
That's epic. That's something. I mean, I remember when I was living in Edinburgh, you could drink in the street and in the parks and stuff. And it's a cool rule that I think
it's a new way of living and socializing. I mean, there's a new way to socialize.
It's
also
very
now.
European.
It is very European. It's kind of cool. Like, I mean, you see the occasional rat scuttle by.
Perhaps that's a part of perhaps that's a good part of the European culture to export to America. Like, learn how to take it easy. Fucking sit outside with a glass of wine with your friends.
Yeah. Enjoy the weather. And I mean, it's been great. I feel like I've just done different things than I thought I would, but it's not like I didn't have a good time.
There's always an alternate route.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess my decision to stay and just finish was that I was like, well, I don't know, embrace life, I guess. If this is what life's dealt me now, then this is just the way I'll do it. And I think I trust myself to always find a way to adapt and land on my feet. So I'm not really worried about life will end if I make this decision kind of thing.
That's okay. Cool. Well, that's good to know. Adaptability is super important. It's especially in the type of professions that we have. Do you think how important is networking if you go to an art school? I mean, you've got this is your second art school experience. How if there's somebody listening who's thinking about going to art school, because I always tell people this when they suggest that they're going to go to a music production school or any of these types of things, I always happen to think that networking is an important part of it. Do you think that that's true or not, or at a different level of emphasis than maybe I'm giving?
I mean, I guess it's exhausting, but we all know networking is important. Just who you know always helps. I think when I was at Srishti, the way that I would say regardless of both experiences of being in art school, I think the best networking, I think the most valuable networking that you do is getting to know the people that you go to school with, other students, and your faculty. I think it's just there's something about being in an educational space and having friends within that space, from your own department, other departments, other years, all of that, other schools. But I don't know, there's so much you learn from your peers, right? And people
those are authentic relationships, and it's kind of blurry. If you come in with this agenda of networking, then that can be quite off-putting. But if you build sincere connections, I think that's the thing. The reason why I wanted to ask you that, I mean, it's kind of the thing with networking is that the way that the word is put across, it gives this sense that it's this task. And then you meet people that are in scare quotes, they're networking, and you can feel that. But then the idea of being in our art school, being around people that are interested in similar things that you're interested in, and also being in a space where you are going to be receptive to finding a mentor or seeking out mentorship. Yeah. So all those things, it's you build authentic relationships that are deeper than just hey, how can I exploit you, or how can I be of service to you, or whatever. That's what it's really about, and networking is a word that cheapens it a bit.
I guess it's because, I think it's what you said, right? That networking feels off-putting if someone's just trying to cozy up to you to, I don't know, get something from you. And I think something that I always struggled with networking in general was that for somebody who likes to talk, I'm really bad at making small talk with strangers.
That's the thing.
I go to a networking event, or I go to a fucking whatever party that's for a brand or whatever. I don't know how, I see people who are good at it, schmoozing and they know how to introduce themselves to people and make connections. And I don't know, I'm terrible at it. I find it exhausting. I don't know how to approach strangers. But I mean, on the other side, if I'm meeting someone in a social way, or at a party, or when we've met, or other people in Bombay that I've met, I think, or in school, when you meet someone as not even necessarily only to make friends or whatever, but I guess when you meet people in a more casual way and you make real connections with people, I would say the networking that has been actually useful to me has never been like all the like random like business cards I've picked up of like random meetings that I've had. Every like valuable like benefit of networking, like recommendations, getting referred for jobs, like meeting people that could like give me opportunities. It all came through like social networking, I guess.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's the people I met in school is like real life networking. Like you're much more inclined to recommend a friend that you know, like personally, whose work you like. I mean, if I'm recommending you for a job, like I'm also recommending you not just because I think you're talented, but it's also because I know like you're like if I'm going to recommend you to a client, like an existing client of mine, like it's also because if I know you personally, I know that you're reliable, you're going to like deliver on time, like you're not going to be some asshole who's going to
I have plenty of artists. Sorry to interrupt you. I have plenty of artist friends who are very talented but not reliable, who I in fact do not recommend for things.
Yeah.
And this is after having recommended them a few times and them maybe a couple of times and them just kind of not doing it or just being MIA or whatever. So the reliability part is big too.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, I agree with you on that. Like, and so I feel like, I don't know, like that's part of it. And it's also like I think it's also part of like what you said of that, like when you have a genuine connection as opposed to like just trying to get to know someone to get something out of them. I mean, it's just not the right way to like connect with people, is it? I don't know. I mean, I guess also like what is the right way? I don't want to like get into that whole like judgy thing. But
well, it ultimately goes into like, you know, the essence of human interactions and just creating a good rapport and an authentic rapport with people. And I mean, we have connected so much being two creators who do their work in pretty different mediums, but they're related. Yeah. But we've connected over the fact that we can all often vent about the weird things we're experiencing in our respective industries, and there's no real conflict of interest ever, like, you know. And so it's always fun to compare these notes about, you know, what you experience. I think it is important to make connections when you go, and I think making connections sounds corny, but it might be a better way than saying it's important to network. And maybe when I'm speaking to people and handing out solicited or unsolicited advice, I should change the word that I'm using from networking to making connections.
Making connections.
Yeah, because that's important. I think if you go into a creative space, I think before a certain point in my life when I was younger, I think I could have, if I had ended up going to like an art school or a music college or whatever, I think I could have easily seen myself focusing on doing the thing and studying and all that stuff and not actually making connections. Like that's kind of what I did when I was studying mathematics. Like I didn't really make a lot of friends in the math department. I just like showed up to class, did the assignments, you know, wrote the exams and found it very interesting and studied and then left, you know. Like I don't know if I'm in touch with a single person from when I was studying mathematics for 4 years. And there are some programs I think that you can go into where it's like that. Like you just show up and do the thing and write the exam and pass in the papers and you get the credential. But then there are other places where I think if you just do that and don't make connections, then it's kind of an issue. Like
I think it's
important to have
I think it definitely helps to network in the like creative field in general. I think one of the cool things about SVA and also like being in New York, I guess, is that there are just so many like amazing people in the industry who are doing like incredible work who happen to like be here. Yeah. You know, like who happen to be like working in like in New York. And also a lot of them are like alumni of the program or like from other departments in SVA. So the school has a great, like, I guess there you can call it a network, but the school has a great network, like just from being in the city and like having like alumni and other like professional contacts. So one of the cool things is that like a lot of the guest speakers and like people that we get to meet, like who come to talk to us and do that, like are like really cool people in the city. And so, I mean, it is a little more of a like formal networking opportunity, I guess, because it's basically you being in class and like someone comes to like talk to you or like show you something. but I mean, it's really up to like you and like how that connection and you connect with some, like I've had plenty of speakers, I've connected with some of them, I haven't with others. Like it really just depends on how things work out, and to some extent I think it's in your hands how you use those opportunities, because you also don't want to like, I don't know, pile yourself onto some poor speaker who's come to like give an hour's lecture and be like, here's all my stuff, like hire me. You know, like, but I think I've also been able to like make some like really good like connections, like people who've like that I admire, like people who've been like potential mentors, you know, like like there's definitely lots of advantages of being here and like just having the like physical proximity to really cool people in the industry.
Yeah. And in terms of figuring out who you reach out to and who you don't reach out to, I suppose it all comes down to intuition, like, and how you hone your sort of social intuition. And also, I guess the other factor would be just sort of weighing the cost of bothering somebody if they're maybe, you know, someone you look up to, or even weighing the disadvantage of reaching out to too many people and then finding it hard to like maintain. And that's when it starts to feel fake too, right? Like that's when maybe that, you know, could be a good tentative rule of thumb, that maybe that's when you're officially networking in the corny kind of way and not making connections, is when you find yourself saturated. Perhaps, I don't know.
And I think also in the creative field, like a lot of people that you're making connections with are not really people who can like directly hire you or give you opportunity, right? Like, I mean, a lot of people who come to speak to us are like just like very experienced illustrators, and I mean, they're not going to be hiring me, you know, but like, it's cool to like get to know them, like, and I mean, it's cool because it's also like, okay, we're all like the illustrator community and they want to know us, I guess, at some level. Like, so it's also kind of cool to like connect social, like at a basic social level, like in person with people whose work you admire that much. And it's also like, well, like, I mean, like how we know each other, we know our other creative friends, right? It's also like, well, my social,
I was just going to say
like, network is expanding to include people that I would never have access to if I was not here, you know, like.
Well, there's so much value in just being able to bounce ideas off each other and share each other's experiences. And so,
learn from that process. Like,
even at that basic level of, like maybe I'm not going to try to like get something out of this person, like, but just the nature of getting out there and making connections with people gives you the opportunity to bounce a lot of ideas, throw around ideas. And especially with like you and I, we have enough of a rapport where we'll just talk about all kinds of foolish shit, especially when we're, you know, maybe not recording a podcast, or maybe even if we are, who knows. But the whole idea of having somebody as a sounding board, someone to bounce ideas off of, and also somebody who's maybe not directly related to the thing you're doing, you know,
the thing you're doing,
you know, that's a big one. So here's an interesting thought. If you are introducing yourself as an illustrator versus introducing yourself as an artist, is there like some sort of different perception that one is trying to create or gets created based on the choice of those two words?
Well, I guess these days, and I mean, also here, I think the industry is so much more like, I don't know, like it's just been around, I guess, actively more. But when you say illustrator, like people will also consider you as an artist, I guess, because it's like not everybody's doing just one thing, right? Like there's things that you want to do like more of, like maybe you're more of a children's book illustrator, but you also make like big paintings. I feel like a lot of people at this point do like more than just one thing. So I guess I use Illustrator a lot. Mostly because, I mean, one of the reasons I use it is because I think I draw mostly, like most of my work is very much like drawing based. And therefore I feel like Illustrator is like an appropriate word for what I do. But then it's not, I struggle with I think sometimes I just use artist because I feel like it's more open-ended, because then I struggle with like all the labels that I need to like give myself to describe the kind of work I'm doing. Because then I'm also writing, and I also only really want to illustrate things that tell stories, and then like, so what qualifies as a story? And like, you know, like then like this is what I struggle with labels, because it's like, well, I don't know how many labels to use, like, and I don't want to use like XYZ words constantly to like describe myself.
The labels have been adding up.
I mean, it's also like if you don't include the label, like it's like then you're losing out on a potential opportunity, right? Because it's like I also do this, so then I guess I should call myself that. Like
yeah. Mine's shuffled around quite a bit. in the last little while. I recently in the last few years took multi-instrumentalist out of my Instagram and Twitter bios because I don't have access to all the instruments I used to have when I lived in Toronto, so I don't even practice them very, very well. And I've cranked out a few pretty horrendous performances on certain instruments recently, you know, when I was recently put in front of a piano. And so it's like, man, can I even say that I play this anymore? I don't know. But yeah, it's an interesting thought. I probably should order some food for myself and maybe wrap this up. Yeah.
As usual,
how's your day looking? Like, what are you kind of doing in the immediate time frame of your life?
Well, I mean, it's like late morning here. It is a beautiful fall day. Like I would say fall has officially like set in.
How awesome is autumn, hey?
The best. I would say favorite season.
It's beautiful.
You know, like,
it's my favorite season back in when I'm in that part of the world.
I feel like there's something about the like nip in the air that always makes me feel like awake and like active and like I want to like do shit.
That when that air is crisp. Oh,
when the
man.
air is crisp.
We never
You know when
have,
people said that word before?
Yeah.
I never understood it till I experienced what it feels like to have like
in the context of
crisp.
air. Yeah, it's the Bombay, the air in Bombay is never crisp.
No.
One would never use the word crisp to describe the air in Bombay. But yeah, that feeling
muggy.
Yeah. Muggy.
Damp maybe.
Damp, you know. Sometimes the air feels like an actual physical surface that you're kind of like trying to push your way through sometimes.
Like touching
but but we love this place regardless.
It is. I mean, I miss Bombay so much.
In terms of the
Constantly.
the busyness, I mean, you get the big, crazy, chaotic city part remains constant, as you were saying. Have you how has your food horizons changed in living in America? Like, do you find that like you know, I don't know why.
Did you say food?
Yeah, because like
what am I eating?
My impression of America is just that like the portions are really huge and everything, and like it's all fat, you know. Is the prevalence of that like kind of in your face, or am I just misremembering?
I think, I mean, that's something that like takes, like I still am not used to completely, I would say, not just with food, but I guess like consumerism, right? Like off the bat, just like and I mean, I do think that consumerism in that like lifestyle way is picking up in India too, like even in Bombay.
Yeah.
But like it constantly blows my mind how many things like you can buy. You know, like before you think, like it's like the need is invented almost, right? Like I go to the store and I see the things like I mean I say this all the time, but like the first time I went to the container store, like it blew my mind, like, and it's so big and there's so much like fucking stuff that I don't know, like that itself, like even when you go to the supermarket and there's like you want to buy milk, but there's 50 kinds of milk and there's 50 like you want to buy low fat milk, then there's like 50 kinds of that. You want to buy low fat almond milk. I mean, it just doesn't, like, you know, like it doesn't stop, right? Like, and I don't know, it exhausts me a little bit. Like it definitely like gave me a little bit more of a like panic attack when I like first got here, just because like it was just too many options. Like I just want to buy fucking milk.
Yeah.
You know, like I don't want to look at this like giant freezer. Eggs, like even basic shit. It's exhausting.
Yep.
But then, so I mean, I would say that was like one thing that like food and like generally like lifestyle wise like is like exhausting. But I mean, I'm getting used to it. Also, I do like cook the majority of my food.
That's good. I was
like,
doing that up until a couple of weeks ago. I've fallen off the cooking for myself wagon, and I've been ordering out for the last week or so. But
I mean, I definitely have my like phases where like, I mean, sometimes I do it like as a treat, and like sometimes I just don't want to fucking cook. But I mean, I guess like by and large, because there's so much more like takeout culture here, right? Like it's like I know plenty of people who don't really like cook at all and have like many other alternatives for all their meals. Like they just like initially I was like, how can you not cook? You know, like how do you eat every day? But like there's also like thousands of things that you can do if you don't cook to eat like healthy and like affordably, right?
Those
like,
options,
so that definitely like
it's funny.
I mean, they're more here, I would say. I don't think we have as many options in India.
So that's the funny thing. Like part of the reason why I think I even asked is because I think it has to do with when I moved and technology shifting. But whatever those like easier ways to eat healthy that I was aware of that I am aware of in India, like I guess I wasn't doing it in Canada. I certainly wasn't living a healthy lifestyle in Canada, but I've managed to start eating healthier only within the last 3 years and living here. So like, I think I have this like, even though I'm born and raised over there, like I have this memory in my mind of just unhealthy food in North America. And
I mean, it is definitely, it is, I would say it's prevalent. I guess it depends on how, like, what your lifestyle and how you eat is, because I mean, like, I've never really been much of a, like, junk food person. Like, I'm not really, like, craving McDonald's all the time.
Yeah.
So I think a big part of that is that, like, I actually have been to, like, I really haven't really been to any of the, like, major, like, 10,000 options of like fast food chains in America, like Popeyes and whatever the hell like they have.
Popeyes,
like,
I miss Popeyes.
Like,
have you not been to Popeyes? They give you
there's
a
like
biscuit.
10 down my block, but I still have not like eaten there.
They give you a biscuit with the chicken. It's like fried chicken and biscuits. So I had Popeyes for the first time when I moved to Toronto, and I was like, cool, let me try it out. Let's go. And they give you a biscuit. I never knew that you could have fried chicken, like one bite of fried chicken and another bite of a biscuit. And it's so tasty.
That sounds fucking good.
It's great.
You're selling me on. I mean, I have that like junk food craving every now and then I like pick a place and I go eat it. But it's not like often, right? But I mean, you can totally, like, if you, it's however you want to eat, there is excess options. So if you want to eat unhealthy, I mean, that there is every type of like frozen food and they're good, you know, like that was also the thing that like blew my mind. Because I feel like in India, like, I mean, the options are getting better, but like in general, when you're eating like pre-packaged like food, like at some level for me, I was like, it just doesn't taste as good as like fresh food. But like, I mean, here, like I've tried the like frozen, like unhealthy things and it's amazing. Yeah. You know, like it's so good. Like you can have anything you want, like, and it's so easy. You don't really have to cook to like eat.
Like the food over here is like better. So much of the food in India is better, and so much of the ingredients are better. Like whenever you're, I find that, but there are certain things here that are just unanimously worse. Like anytime you order that cheese sauce that sometimes gets put on dishes. Like
you mean mayo that they throw like cheese
and that sketchy
into?
Cheese sauce, that is like a no-no, and that is unfortunately and you never know when it's going to show up. You know, you order something that has cheese, it says cheese, but really it's that cheese sauce thing that they put on. That's you know, and obviously you know the burger game is picking up over here, but you know nobody does burgers like you can get in North America.
Well, I mean, you can eat real beef here and not buff like we do in Bombay.
Yeah,
so
that stuff is funny. I went to a restaurant and on the menu they had written beep. B-E-E-P.
They had what?
Instead of beef, they had written beep. B-E-E-P, like P for pilot, you know? And I thought that was quite funny. You'll see restaurants that say buff, and then every now and then, they'll like intentionally have that spelling mistake, beep.
Beep,
yeah. So try the beep cutlet. You know, we make a delicious beep biryani or whatever. It's like, wow.
One of the first things I did whenever I leave Bombay, like I remember the last couple of years, it's always like every time I would go to Kerala, I would make sure the first thing I want to do is eat, like, give me like actual beef. You know, like just give me fucking beef.
Yeah.
And I mean, even when I came to America the first time, I was like, I need to eat like, I want to go eat like some actual fucking beef.
Yeah. Take me to your nearest beef dealer.
Take me to. Yeah. I mean, and it's hard to like in some places it's hard to get good beef in India that way. You know. Like,
yeah. I mean, I often wonder about beef when somebody claims that they are serving beef. I often wonder, like, what is this really? And also, like, even if it is real beef, like, what is the condition of this cow? Because there are certain places you go where you see cows in the middle of the city, and you're like, this does not look great.
Like a cow I want to eat.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's like, you know, and sometimes kept in really sketchy scenarios. And it's like, what? You know, like all of this trouble that we're going to over the cow over here doesn't seem like it's doing the cows any good. It doesn't seem like it's doing any good to the people that want to eat beef, and I don't think it's doing any good for the people that want to avoid eating beef either. It's a lose for everybody, and yet there is an issue, sometimes a very serious issue, with regards to the beef thing. I think I'm going to let you go. Thanks so much for
this was fun.
for talking. Yeah, we should do it again soon.
We should.
And don't hang up. I'm going to give you some instructions on how to save the file and send it over. All right.